My name is Philip Bradford, and as you recall in our past briefings, I'm a police officer of 31 years. I want to share with you a story this afternoon about an incident that occurred early in my career. You see, it was 1992. There was a young female that was in a bad relationship, an abusive relationship, and she left her husband. And I was a young detective at the time, and she had filed a report in reference to him abusing her. Well, in 1992, we really didn't know what to do with domestic violence. We didn't have the resources that we have today. So I really didn't know what to tell her. And one night, she's out late with some friends. She gets home, arrives home. It's probably about 9, 10 o'clock at night. And it's on this night in 1992 that it still haunts me to this day. You see, this young lady went home that night and she pulls into her garage. She lived in a nice, quaint neighborhood. The houses were close together. She pulls into her 2-car garage, and she had the garage door set where it would stay open about that much. As the door come down, it automatically stopped right there. So she pulls into her garage, shuts the garage door behind her for her safety. She's scared of her ex-husband. And she gets out of the car and starts walking toward the garage door. Well, all of a sudden, the light goes out in the garage. And she thinks, oh no, why did that happen? So she continues to go to the garage door. Just as she reaches the garage door, she opens it and hits the light switch. The lights don't come on. It is so dark she cannot even see her hand in front of her face. About that time, she hears the footsteps of her ex-husband running across the floor coming toward her. She panics and she runs, and she starts to run out of the garage toward her safety to get to freedom. As she's running across the garage floor, it's very dark. She falls over some yard tools. Just as she falls, she starts to skirmish and low crawl to the opening in the door. Just as she goes to go through the door, she feels him scrape down her leg. He's right there on her. She gets out from under the garage door and she gets to her feet. She begins to run, and she can actually feel that he is right behind her. She can hear his breath as they are running, and she fell down. Just as she falls, he grabs her leg and he starts pulling her leg, just like I'm pulling yours. You see, that really didn't happen. But what I want to share with you tonight is your presentation. It's all about the presentation. You see, we can prepare and do all the things we've learned in class this semester in preparation for our briefing. But if you cannot deliver it, the presentation is everything. All that's for naught. So I want to talk to you about 4 key points in your presentation tonight. One is eye contact. The second is body movement. And the third is gestures. And the fourth is your facial expressions. You see, let's talk about the role that the eye contact plays. Now, this is very important. You may think standing this far off that eye contact's not that important. But focusing your eyes actually helps you concentrate. Now, when your eyes wander, they're taking in images from all over, and it makes your brain wander. You get off topic. So stay focused and make eye contact with your listeners. When you don't look at people in the eye, they are less likely to listen to you. If they stop listening, then you've lost them. You've lost them in the conversation. And we don't want to do that. When you look at someone in the eye, he or she is more likely to look at you, look back at you. And when this happens, they're more likely to listen and become engaged and buy into what you're actually saying. And then when you look at your listeners, you see your eyes are scanning their faces. And then they feel like they're part of your presentation. They become more connected to you. And see, then you may begin to see as you give this presentation that they start nodding and they may raise their eyebrows. Okay. And that's them connecting with you. So it's very important. And as a result in all this, your listeners are transformed from a passive receivers to active participants. And then your speech in your presentation becomes a conversation, if you will, with your audience. Now, let's talk about the role of movement that it plays in your speech. You see, it catches the eye. It also catches the eye of the listener because they're focused on you. As you move around, then they're focused on your movements, and it keeps their attention. And it helps also work off your nervousness. As you're nervous, you can move around a little, and it helps you there. It directs attention to certain parts of your speech, like when you want to drive home a point. Body movement helps tell the story, and it can support your message. Think of your speaking area, the stage. It's all yours. Use it. Walk over here on this side. Make eye contact. Let the listeners feel and get in contact with you. Walk over here to this side and let the listeners on this side feel and get in contact with you there. As you do this, you have to be careful. Your movements can be distracting. So you have to be careful. And if you're fidgeting and putting your hands in and out of your pockets, you remember the video we watched, the girl was twirling her hair the entire time. So you have to be careful of fidgeting in your movements. What roles do the gestures play in a speech? Gestures can also support your message. It's a form of non-verbal communication in which visible bodily actions communicate a particular message. You may use one gesture to support your message one day, give that same message the next day, and use another gesture. So gestures are very helpful. Now, the most natural gestures is one that is motivated by the content of your message. It doesn't call for attention to itself, but it flows naturally. You make the audience sure that they can see your hands. Don't stand behind the lectern and they cannot see you and see your gestures. Stand where they can see you. Now, let's talk about the role of facial expressions. And I use some of this there in my story, if you will, at the beginning of my briefing. But using facial expressions helps to communicate our point. The face as a whole indicates much about our human mood, the mood we're in. Lost a word there. There are 6 universally recognized emotions shown through facial expressions. One is fear. One is disgust. Another is anger. Another is happiness. Another is surprise. And another is sadness. So remember, presentation is everything. So keep in mind the 4 key points in their presentation. Eye contact, body movement, gestures, facial expressions. I'm Philip Bradford. Now let's go give some speeches. Thank you.